In a quiet suburban neighborhood, a little girl's world was turned upside down by a ruthless attack. What seemed like an ordinary day quickly spiraled into chaos when a Mexican cartel, known for its violent operations, targeted her family. But they made one grave mistake. They didn't know who her protector was. Her loyal dog, once a war hero, was a retired canine trained in military combat, and he wasn't about to let anyone hurt his family. As the cartel moved in, the unthinkable happened. The dog, with years of combat experience, sprang into action. What followed next was a battle that no one saw coming. Could this small girl and her retired war dog survive the cartel's brutal assault? Stay tuned as we dive into the full story, revealing how a little girl's life was changed forever by the most unexpected of heroes. The girl, Sophia, was just 8 years old, but her bond with Max, the retired canine, was unbreakable. Max had been a military working dog, part of a specialized unit deployed overseas, where he served in some of the most dangerous situations imaginable. After years of service, he was honorably retired and adopted by Sophia's family. To them, he was more than just a dog, he was family. But the cartel didn't care about his past. They saw an opportunity for power, targeting Sophia's father, who had inadvertently crossed paths with them during his work. As the cartel members closed in, their dark figures approaching the house, Sophia had no idea the danger she was in, but Max sensed it immediately. He'd been trained for these moments, and with a growl deep in his throat, he stood protectively between Sophia and the approaching threat. The air was thick with tension, but the worst was yet to come. What would happen when the cartel met their match? The night was eerily silent except for the faint rustle of leaves as the cartel members crept closer to the house. Inside, Sophia's father, Miguel, was in his home office, completely unaware of the danger outside. Sophia, giggling softly, was playing with Max in the living room, oblivious to the tension in the air. But Max wasn't his usual playful self. His ears twitched, and his eyes darted toward the window. Something wasn't right. He moved closer to Sophia, positioning himself between her and the front door. Outside, the cartel's leader motioned to his men, their plan unfolding in whispers. They believed this was just another easy target, an unarmed family. What they didn't know was that Max's senses were sharper than ever, his instincts still wired for survival. Suddenly, Max let out a low growl, his body rigid as he stared at the door. Sophia froze, her wide eyes watching him. Miguel stepped into the room, startled by the dog's behavior. "Max?" he asked, confused. Then he heard it, a faint crunch of footsteps on the gravel outside. His heart sank as he realized they weren't alone. As the shadows loomed closer, Miguel had to make a decision. How far would they go to protect their family? Miguel's mind raced as he quickly turned off the lights, motioning for Sophia to stay quiet. He could hear the faint hum of voices outside, growing louder. Max stayed by Sophia's side, his every muscle tense, his sharp gaze fixed on the door. Miguel reached for his phone, but before he could dial for help, the sound of glass breaking shattered the silence. Sophia gasped, clutching Max's fur tightly. The cartel had made their move. A figure appeared in the broken window, scanning the darkened room. Miguel positioned himself between Sophia and the intruders, his heart pounding. He had no idea how far they were willing to go or why they were here, but he knew one thing: his family's survival depended on staying calm. Max growled louder now, stepping forward, his body a shield between the family and danger. The intruders laughed, dismissing the dog as an obstacle they could easily handle, but they underestimated him. Max's training kicked in as he locked onto their movements, ready for whatever came next. As the front door creaked open, Miguel whispered to Sophia to hide, but she refused to leave Max. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Then, in a flash, Max charged, launching himself toward the nearest threat. What happened next would change everything. Max lunged with precision, his instincts razor-sharp from years of combat training. The first intruder was caught off guard, stumbling backward as Max's powerful frame collided with him, forcing him to drop the crowbar he carried. The other cartel members hesitated for a moment, surprised by the dog's ferocity, but quickly regrouped. One of them muttered, "This isn't just any dog." It was then they realized they weren't dealing with a typical family pet. Miguel took advantage of the distraction to grab a fire poker from the fireplace, his grip tight as he prepared to defend his family. Sophia, hidden behind the couch, clung to Max's leash, her eyes wide but determined to stay by his side. The situation was spiraling out of control, but it wasn't over yet. As Max forced the group to split up, a sudden knock came from the back door. Miguel's stomach dropped. They weren't alone. A second group was closing in, cutting off their escape routes. The cartel was more organized than he'd imagined, and now it wasn't just about holding them off, it was about survival. Max darted toward the new threat, his bark echoing through the house, but the intruders didn't back down. Miguel realized they weren't just after him. There was something bigger at play, something he didn't yet understand. What was this cartel really after? And would Max's courage and training be enough to protect them from the storm closing in? Max charged toward the back door, his growl low and steady, a clear warning to the second group of intruders. They hesitated, realizing this dog wasn't just a deterrent, he was a force to be reckoned with. One of the men raised his hands, shouting for the others to stand down. "This is taking too long," he said, frustration evident in his voice. It was then Miguel noticed something strange. The man wasn't armed like the others. He wasn't even looking for a fight. Before Miguel could process what was happening, the first group regrouped, closing in on him and Sophia. Max darted between the two groups, his presence creating enough chaos to keep them at bay. Miguel shouted, "What do you want? Why are you here?" The man at the back door finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "We're not here for you. We're here for the dog." The words hung in the air, confusing Miguel and sending a chill down his spine. "Max?" he asked, glancing at his loyal companion, who stood ready to attack again. The man continued, "That dog knows things, classified things. He's worth more to us than you realize." Realizing the cartel wanted Max for his military training, Miguel's fear turned to resolve. Max wasn't just their protector, he was family, and Miguel wasn't going to let anyone take him. As the intruders moved in, Max barked sharply, a signal. From outside came the sound of sirens, growing louder. Miguel's neighbor, a retired police officer, had noticed the broken window and called for help. The cartel scattered, their plans ruined, but not before one of them turned back, locking eyes with Miguel. "This isn't over," he warned before vanishing into the night. Miguel knelt beside Max, hugging him tightly as Sophia ran to join them. The danger had passed, but the family knew their lives had changed forever. Max wasn't just a hero, he was a target, and their bond had only grown stronger through the chaos. As the sirens grew louder, Sophia clung to Max, her small arms wrapped tightly around his neck. Miguel stood up, his body tense but relieved as police officers flooded the neighborhood. The shattered glass and chaos painted a picture of the danger they'd just survived. An officer approached Miguel, asking questions about what had happened, while another carefully inspected the scene. Max, though alert, seemed to sense it was over. He relaxed slightly, his eyes watching Sophia as she whispered, "Good boy, Max. You saved us." Miguel couldn't help but smile, the weight of the night finally hitting him. He knelt beside his daughter and their loyal dog, his voice steady but emotional. "We'll always protect you too, Max." Though the cartel had escaped, the family knew they had something priceless, each other, and as they stepped into the light of a new day, they were stronger together.